Friends and students here at SUU, welcome to Teaching and Learning at Southern Utah University, the podcast that delves into the dynamic world of education in one of the most vibrant academic communities. Join us as we explore innovative teaching methodologies, insightful discussions with educators, and inspiring stories of student growth. Whether you're a seasoned educator or a curious student or simply passionate about the art of learning, this podcast is your window into the enriching experiences that shape Southern Utah University's learning environment. Tony Pellegrini here with another vibrant podcast guest that we have today. We have Mary Pearson and Mary, I apologize. I usually write down your title, but could you tell us your title? Would that be okay?
Sure. I'm currently the CFO, the Vice President of Finance Administration at Southern Utah University.
And that is wonderful, and we're grateful for that perspective that you have, because that's some of the questions that I wanted to address to you. Or start with, I haven't known Mary since she was a kindergartner, but I have known Mary a long time. And one of the questions that we really wanted to address and jump into is, with that perspective, Mary, from kindergarten to CFO, what have you seen a change over the course of your career here across the street at SUU? Could you talk to us about some of the changes that you've seen?
You bet. My father was a faculty member here in the business school, and I'm the youngest of the family and was lucky enough that when he finished up his PhD, I was able to move to Cedar City, just like you said, when I was in kindergarten. And I have seen such tremendous changes. In fact, when my dad was a faculty member here teaching in the business school, he was maybe one of 12 or 13 faculty members in total and taught a variety of every type of business class. And so when you think about the size of the institution back then, that was a little over 2,000 students, to where we are today at 15,000 students, and beautiful new buildings that have been created, and new sports facilities, and student center, new student center that was built in that time period, and then the vast array of programs that have been added to Southern Utah University campus. It's just incredible to see that growth, and I've been able to witness that for the last almost nearly 50 years.
Well, sorry to make you quantify that. I apologize, but what fun.
I'm proud of it. I'm glad I've been able to be part of it.
Some of the most significant shifts, and particularly in teaching and learning, but significant shifts that you've seen in the business area in our university.
I think one of probably the biggest shift that we've had over the years has been the addition of our online programs. And of course, when I was a student here back in the late 80s, SUU has always been known for its very much student-centered and very kind of personal education touch that it has for students and for even a great place for faculty and staff to be able to be employed. And so I think, as far as, I'm going to draw a few similarities as well as the differences, but of course when I was here as a student, the faculty that were here really cared about me and my educational experience, and I believe that is still translated today at SUU. I think that we try to be very diligent and purposeful in hiring faculty that care about the student experience and about taking a really intentional relationship with our students to help ensure that they're successful after they get their degree here. Those are some of the similarities. The differences are by far the technology that's been added into the environment, and we have found that it's interesting, but all of our online classes that we teach, nearly 70% of those are taken by residential students. So we have a huge variety, a huge majority of students that are on this campus that choose to take an online class. That's a major difference in the way that we teach and the way that students are choosing to learn, and having that kind of flexibility and structure in their educational schedule to be able to get a degree. I mean, that's probably the largest shift over the years that we've had.
One of the things that I've thought about as you've been expressing that was the power of choice that students have in choice. Can you talk for a moment about the power that choice has in the learners that you've worked with, of making the choice between, maybe I can take this as an online format and this other class in a face-to-face format? Do you see that as a powerful motivator for our learners?
I think particularly for our Southern Utah University learners, having that flexibility is critical. We know that the majority of our students here on this campus work, that they hold jobs, many of them holding full-time jobs. So having that flexibility in their schedule is essential and critical for them to be able to finish their degree. So I think that it's important that we continue to look for ways to meet our students where they are, and that is in providing them some flexible schedules. And I think the most important part is for us at Southern Utah University to not lose sight of that personal touch in education. And I do believe wholeheartedly that can be done in both environments. And I think that it takes more intentionality for sure to be able to do that in an online environment. But I don't think it's exclusive to the face-to-face environment. And I think that it's important that we again remain true to who we are as an institution.
Looking to that past and helping us to lead into the future. I think that's wonderful. You mentioned very clearly, the institutions, the edifices, the beautiful campus that we live on and that we work in. Talk to us about some of the student demographics that maybe you've seen change since you were a student in student government or back in the 80s. Have you observed changes in the demographic of students over the years? Are they the same students that are attended when you and I came?
I think the student demographic has changed somewhat. I do believe that there's still a huge populace of rural students that are coming here from our rural counties, particularly in Utah. I do think we have a bigger population of students from northern Utah than we had, particularly maybe when I was here at school 30 years ago. But I also think that we have more international students on this campus for sure that we have had over the last 10 to 15 years than we ever had in the past. And I think that that's very important as we look at ways to expose all students to different cultures and different people. I think that really enriches the academic experience when you can mix and mingle folks from different places all over the world and across the United States as well. I mean, we can get a lot of diversity just within our own country.
As a classroom teacher, as a dean, and now as a CFO, you've had the opportunity to see that globalization in effect within your own classrooms. How can you give us any examples of how those changes, that globalization, that internationalization, has influenced the classroom dynamic in business with MBAs and other degrees? Have you seen that at all?
Yes, absolutely. Particularly in our face-to-face MBA program, a large attraction for graduate students around the world when our international office is recruiting them has been the opportunity to get a graduate degree here at Southern Utah University. And we have been, again, intentional at keeping our face-to-face experience for our MBA students available for those. And it's interesting, that demographic, over 50% of the students that are in the MBA program are international students. And currently, and I've lost track a little bit of the numbers now that I've moved into a new role.
I'm not holding you to the fire here.
But I do know that just as a few months ago when I was the dean, we had about 75 to 80 students in the face-to-face MBA program, and that over 50% of those students were international students. And and again, for that type of environment, it brings in a very rich discussion when you can start to talk about economic factors that are impacting companies and cultures and people around the world. So I think that has built a very enriching experience. In fact, our faculty are saying how much they love that the diversity that they're able to diverse opinions that they're able to bring into the classroom experience. Going back across the street to your home across the street, how do you see that diversity impacting Cedar City, our local community, beyond the walls of our of SUU? How does that diverse, globalized student population benefit and help us as Cedar City citizens? Well, I have witnessed from the time I was a young girl. Of course, it's become much more robust over the years. But I do believe that as a community, there was some resistance to having these folks coming in from all over the world into the community. I think that maybe there was some fear because we didn't have access to the internet and to information to recognize all the qualities that they bring into the institution. But I have seen it over the years and how it's impacted the community, and have heard comments from the community over the years of this resistance. And I think that that is changing. I think that as we have continued to make an effort to bring in more students from all around the world, that it's become more accepting. And if you just even look at the businesses that have opened up around our community, that shows you a little bit more of that acceptance, because there's a lot of folks from different regions all around the world that are here and running very successful businesses here in our community, which I believe helps our students feel more welcome and more supported when they know that there's an acceptance outside of SUU for their cultures and their different beliefs.
It really is. I think the words that I'd put in your mouth, it's really symbiotic. The benefits to the community, the benefits to these students that they have by participating and engaging in a community that's open and welcome to them. I've seen the same. Thank you so much. You mentioned, your move into administration. What administrative changes or trends have you observed in academia that have impacted university life from your perspective?
So this is my 25th year here at SUU. Yes, a long time, and I have absolutely loved the opportunity to have been able to stay at SUU for that many years. As far as the different changes in administration, I'm fairly new to this particular administrative role. I did serve as the dean of the business school for 6 years, and I think we have had a very robust economy that has been able to feed into our university system and been able to provide us with opportunity to do better outreach in bringing different students here, bringing different programs that attract students to Southern Utah University. And I think that's been a huge benefit to the institution as a whole. And as a dean, when I was in that administrative role, it was really exciting to be able to know that there were resources and funding available that we could start and try new programs that would hit maybe different demographics across the United States and around the world. And I think there is going to be more opportunity for that in the future. I do think that just like in normal, our economy is going to be a tighter budget year. We may not see as much money coming in, and I think we'll have to all think creatively about how to do more with maybe a little bit less. That doesn't mean, though, that we stop being innovative, we stop looking for new opportunities, we stop looking at how to meet the needs of our student body, and making very intentional efforts at maybe kind of shifting our focus to make sure that we are creating relevant programs that are needed to be able to help our local economy as well as our economy, across the United States.
This is coming from an old drama teacher, so please, I'm using the wrong terms, but speaking to a business educator, that return on the investment that we have to do in maintaining those and doing more with a little bit less. I like that perspective of looking, using data to help inform our decisions and help us move forward. And I think that from what I'm hearing from you, that's happening administratively within our university and within our departments as well.
Yes, for sure. And I think we'll continue to have that discussion over the next 2 or 3 years for sure, and maybe 4 or 5, maybe. And I don't think it hurts any of us to be able to look for efficiencies that we can find within our areas. But again, our demographic of our student is a little different, right? I mean, the value proposition of higher education is being challenged around the world. And I think this is a challenge as I talk with other deans and other administrators across the United States, so many universities right now are going through a downturn in enrollment. And everyone is asking the question, what is the value of higher education? And I think that it's going to be up to educators to show and provide evidence of the value of that higher education and what it does for the lifetime of an individual. And because, again, that's being questioned universally, and the only people that can change that mindset are really the folks that are feet on the ground and with their eyes and ears in front of students to be able to talk to them about the value of what an education can do to transform lives.
And tell that story. Personally, you've done that so well today, where you've come from and how education has benefited you and your family, and those opportunities are available to all those learners with whom you get to engage and work with. I want to take you back again another couple of decades. I apologize, but to student engagement and activism, you've got a wonderful experience in and background in student engagement and activism as a student here at so many levels. But in the question I have for you is, in your current position, have you noticed changes in student engagement with the students that you interact with, that you come in contact with them? Is there the engagement and activism that was so evident and spontaneous in your own heart years and years ago?
Yes. And when I was a student here, I've always been actively involved in the community and other things. But when I was a student here, I was very much involved at SUU and was involved in student government. And that really enriched my experience while I was here. I think I was able to meet you and other folks that were involved in student government, and they're still friends today. We still talk about our experiences here. And as things have changed, I think that students are now wanting, not so much getting together just for the social aspect. I think that from what I've seen in the business school, I think students want to get together to make sure that they are getting something out of that engagement and out of that activity. And I think it's important for us that as we put together different clubs and different events, that there is a purpose for that, because I think the students are a little more possessive maybe of their time and how they spend time outside of the classroom. And so I think we have to be careful at how many events that we do and what is the intended outcome that the students can see the benefit for them to get involved in this club or in this organization. What is it going to do? And maybe it's a selfish endeavor, but what is it going to do for me? What are those returns that I'm going to see from engaging in 1 or 2 extra hours every week to get involved in extracurricular events? Now, with that said, I do think that those extracurricular events are what really set an educational experience apart from any other institution that you may go to. If once you get involved in an event or a club or an organization, oftentimes that's the experience. The people that you met, the opportunity you had to network and engage is what you remember that carries you throughout your life.
It keeps that. Well, it helps in the development area as well, as we get phone calls from the past saying, hey, now remember your great experiences at SUU. Do you want to provide those same to future learners? And it's easy to do. Just one last, we're just about out of time. I want to just wrap up with one last question. Your time is so precious. Not all of our, those 15,000 are not going to be able to have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. This is an opportunity to have that with you. Can you talk to our learners about maybe giving them some words of advice or wisdom about challenges you faced in adapting to these changes? One of the things that I've thought about as you've been speaking is the only constant in Mary's life has changed, as with all of us. But you've had to make some adaptations in your life and your approach. What words of wisdom for our listeners of what they might be able to do in their lives to be able to adapt changes and deal with the changes that life brings to us?
A few things that I think that I have learned over the years is, first of all, to not just be set on one path. I think that life provides so many wonderful opportunities. And if you are prepared for those opportunities, if you have gained the education that you need that allows you to be able to take an advance in different areas, I think that that's really critical. So first of all, it would be make sure you ensure that you get the education that you need so you're prepared and ready to take that next step. Secondly, don't get pigeonholed or think that you're going to go one direction. If there's one thing that I've learned throughout the years as I've watched students graduate is that oftentimes the curveball will be thrown their way, and you need to be able to be flexible and to pivot. And I think in order to be able to advance in your career, so oftentimes making that crucial pivot when an opportunity comes along is very, very important for you to go to that next step. So not being just set on one goal. And I think so oftentimes when I talk with the young folks, they think, I don't know where I'm going to go next and after graduation and where I'm going to be in 10 years. And I honestly don't believe that you're ever going to know that. I look at my career and how it's changed and pivoted over the years, and where when opportunities came along, I took them. Even though they were challenging, I took them and applied for them. And I'm so grateful as that's enriched my career and my experience here at SUU and with the people that I've been able to associate with. So that, and secondly, get involved. Get involved. If it's with your church, get involved in your community. Look for ways where you can serve outside of your normal everyday life, outside of your work life, because those experiences also provide opportunity for you to get engaged in things that are meaningful and that will make a difference in your life and your perspective on overall in your overall well-being. Sometimes that's just from the associations, the people that so get involved. Number one, get involved with outside of your normal work. And if you're in work, get involved in the different associations within your workplace. And secondly, be flexible. Have a flexible mindset and know that life just doesn't have one path that's clear. Be able to pivot and move where you need to in order to advance in your career and be able to engage with other folks that will build you and provide really wonderful opportunities for you.
Mary, thank you so much. Beautifully said, and beautiful information, beautiful vision. And please, listeners, if you have an opportunity to say hello to Mary in your travels across campus, say hello to her and tell her that you've heard and you appreciate her direction and suggestions. Teaching and learning listeners at SUU, I appreciate you. I'm grateful for your engagement and participation, and we'll hear from you next month. Have a great week and a wonderful holiday season. Bye-bye now.